I recently repotted this peacock plant and noticed that some of the leaves had begun to get pretty crispy and had this weird dirt texture to them, which at first I thought was just remnants of soil that were from the repotting. But then I looked over at my white fusion Calathea and noticed that its leaves were having this mottled texture too and was losing some of its green, which is so weird, right? That's when I realized it's not soil.
It's spider mites. So let's go evict them. Now there are some ways you can do it that are very delicate, and those are probably good for fancy flowers and things like that. But for me, I am more of a scorched earth policy kind of person when it comes to dealing with insects, pests specifically. So that's the method I'm going to show you right now. Step 1, prepare a quarantine space. I'm going to be using my double-decker quarantine box that I made, and we're going to wipe it down just to make sure that nothing is going to get introduced into the quarantine. I'm just using a Clorox wipe. I've got some aeroid soil chunks in here, so unfortunately I don't have a brush and dustpan small enough. So, okay, I think I was able to get most of those chunks out. All right, step 2, total annihilation. So now I'm outside, which you can probably tell from the reflection of my glasses, and we are going to unpot these, spray them with the hose, especially the undersides, clip off the dead leaves, and make those bastards pay. Actually, before I do this, let me actually set up my mat so that I don't have humongous amounts of soil all over my workspace. Oh, I got spider mites and now I'm all itchy, you know? People smarter than I plan ahead and have this already, you know? I'm not one of those people. All right. So, after assessing the situation, I think I'm actually going to pot my white fusion Calathea down to a much smaller pot because I think it has shrunk a little bit. But now, what we're going to do is Clorox wipe the pot. This might be overreactive, but I just want to make sure that if I'm using the same pot, it's a clean pot. And I'll do the new white fusion Calathea one just in case. And then wipe that down with, because I'm sure it's fine, just concentration level wise, but I don't want to make sure I'm not putting a lot of Clorox into my soil. Okay. We've rinsed them off, sanitized the pots. We're going to cut off the parts, the leaves that I think aren't worth keeping. And if you can see, like this guy, I could just chop him off, but he has a lot of mottling from the poor mite outbreak, so it's okay to be ruthless during this chop. I had actually, in my first iteration of this, when I thought it was just dirt, had already chopped off a bunch of leaves that I thought were past the point of no return, and new growth started growing almost like a week later. I'm not saying it'll happen every time, but I think my plant was much happier once I started getting rid of all the bad guys. And now I'm just inspecting to make sure that anything that can be taken off is taken off. That one's okay. Now, I'm always so precious about my White Fusion Calathea because this is, I think, Calathea number 3. Like I talked about in my other video about White Fusion Calathea care, and so I'm always terrified of killing it because I have killed many of its distant relatives before, or at least 2 of its distant relatives before. But I can't be precious with this if I want to keep it alive, especially when there's a mite infestation. So these leaves are pretty mottled, but there's no real brown crunchy stuff on them. So I'm thinking that I'll keep those. Let me show you. As you can see, like I said, there's new growth stemming up all over the place, and this is about, I don't know, a week and a half post doing a trim. All right, now, what we're going to do next, I go back and forth on this, on which should be the correct order of operations, but I think what I'm going to do is repot and then spray with insecticide and quarantine. You could probably skip this. You probably don't have to be as hardcore as I am, but I just don't want to deal with it. You know, like I want it to be over with, so that's why I go hardcore. And that's why I do repotting, sanitizing, hosing down, and then insecticide. Probably at least 2 of those steps could be skipped if you're really not feeling like it. Which of those 2 is up to you. But like I said, I'm not having it. I don't want to do this again. So that's why we're going hardcore. So what I'm going to be using, I went to a farm supply store here. It's called Country Mix, which I love. When I used to be really obsessed about my fish, that's where I would go for fish because they always had a great selection. But they have amazing soil and stuff like that. And so I went soil shopping and got a really good aeration mix. Or what is it called? Ocean Forest. I saw a lot of good reviews about this, so I was going to try it. But I think I'm going to do, I can't lift it, it's a 1.5 cubic feet. And I'm not supposed to be lifting anything post gallbladder surgery. But I'm going to use Coast of Maine Stonington Blend aeration formula. That's the one I'm going to be using. I have decided. Okay. Now let us pot these guys into their happy new or same homes, renovated homes. This could probably stand to go in a smaller pot too, but it's been pretty successful in this one, so I'm not gonna mess with it too much. By the way, I wasn't even thinking about this until now. I wasn't even thinking about this as a plan, just kind of popped in my head. I am now selling these scoops. These scoops, my favorite bottle, and my favorite planting shears are all available on my website, which I will link in the bottom below. I'm really excited about it. And I hope you will be too. I'm also working on plant medicine. which I'm super excited about. I'm testing it right now. My own little emergency blends for different plants. If they work out the way I want them to, oh yeah, we're gonna be featuring those pretty soon. But I wanna make sure that my theories are correct first. Now it's insecticide time. I don't want it that harsh. I really like using Earth's Ally. It's just really helpful. Okay, now that they're thoroughly saturated, I give them a little bit of a drink with some plant food. For this, I'm going to be using Schultz All-Purpose. But just a couple of drops, nothing serious. So literally 2 drops and 250 milliliters of water. And obviously, all of that is not going into these 2 plants alone. Okay, so luckily the humidity from the liquid of Earth Ally, that's not an official way to say it, but you know what I mean, is going to help humidity in the quarantine along with the little bit of water I gave them, but that's where they're going next, over to quarantine. Okay, so my prayer plant, peacock plant, whatever you want to call it, obviously will not fit in this one, so we're going to put it in this one, but you go in here. You. Okay, set the timer on this one so that it does work too. And I'm gonna leave these in here for about 2 weeks. Put it there and check in, see how it goes.
So it's been just under a month that they've been in quarantine, and I went to go check my plants today, and I saw this in the soil. Do you see the webbing with all the little pouches in it? Full disclosure, my prayer plant had to kind of, like, basically it's going to look weird when I take out the prayer plant because I gotta kind of finagle it out. All right, enough of a preamble. Look how healthy those leaves look. Oh, so much better than the original, right? This one's still kind of mottled a smidge, but all of these are so pretty. Let's check the undersides. And gonna put this up to the light so that we can look and see if there's anything yucky crawling around. No, I think my white fusion Calathea is a success. Now let's try and get the prayer plant out. Peacock plant, prayer plant, whatever. Nope, that's not gonna work. Oh, how did I do this? There we go. Close enough, right? All right. Let's check the prayer plant. Peacock plant, prayer plant, whatever you want to call it. Maranata. So, yeah, these leaves all look pretty good too. Some new growth. That's good. Just check the undersides. Not see any crawlies. You see that? Yeah, I think we're good. Mission accomplished. I am going to repot the white fusion Calathea in some potting mix that doesn't have mold in it, and yeah, I think the extreme measures worked pretty well for getting rid of spider mites. But if you want to know how to get rid of any pest, click this video, because I go into my semi-complete guide for how to identify and get rid of most houseplant pests. I'll see you over there.